Greetings, humanity! Today is Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. Let's grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner, using GROK each weekday to help me search out and to summarize the biggest headlines in the news today. You can also get the unparalleled benefit of this observer's opinions. We review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world, from Tehran, from Abu Dhabi, from Tripoli, from the Arabian Sea, from Washington, D.C., from London, Gaza City, and Madrid, Spain. In fact, all over the world. We will begin with a deep dive into today's top story right after this. God with Us, the story of Jesus, is a full blending of all the Gospels into one continuous narrative, a story that misses nothing from the Savior's life. Inspired by the majestic text of the King James Bible, God with Us is adapted to modern language and formatted for easy reading. It's a faithful paraphrase divided into brief stories fit for daily Bible studies. This book was fully researched to present the story of Jesus from his birth to his ascension. Find God with Us by me, Robert Gardner, at Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. And now, let's grok the most important news in the world today. Starting with our lead story, Dateline Kiev, Ukraine. Russia unleashed one of its most intense aerial barrages of the winter overnight, hammering Ukraine's energy infrastructure with dozens of missiles and hundreds of drones. Power plants, electrical substations, and transmission lines were struck across multiple regions, plunging hundreds of thousands of households into darkness and cold as temperatures hover near or below freezing. Ukrainian officials described the assault as particularly depraved, with Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK echoing that sentiment and calling the targeting of civilian energy facilities a deliberate attempt to inflict suffering ahead of renewed peace negotiations. Air defenses intercepted a significant portion of the incoming projectiles, but several critical facilities were damaged or destroyed, raising fears of prolonged blackouts during the harsh winter months. The timing, immediately preceding the second round of U.S.-Ukraine-Russia trilateral talks in Abu Dhabi, has fueled speculation that Moscow is seeking leverage at the negotiating table. Ukrainian Energy Minister German Galushenko stated that emergency repairs are underway, but full restoration could take weeks. Civilian casualties were reported as limited, though the humanitarian impact is expected to grow rapidly without swift international support. And now, we grok the headlines from around the globe. Dateline Abu Dhabi and the United Arab Emirates. The second round of U.S.-mediated trilateral peace talks between Ukraine, Russia, and the United States resumed in Abu Dhabi, hours after Russia's major energy strikes on Ukraine. Diplomats hope to build on earlier discussions despite the fresh escalation. This completely avoidable meat grinder of a war, protracted by European globalists, would end instantly without their interference and the intransigence of Zelensky and his Nazi mafia oligarchy that were installed to run Ukraine. Oh, Putin's hands are not clean. But this would be over if it weren't for the globalists and the corrupt Nazis of Ukraine. Dateline Tripoli. Saif al-Salam Gaddafi, the prominent political son of former dictator Muammar Gaddafi, was assassinated by a masked gunman at his home in Zintan. The 53-year-old former presidential hopeful and one-time heir apparent was shot dead in what appears to be a targeted killing amid Libya's ongoing power struggles. His family and political team confirmed the death. No group has claimed responsibility. This observer remembers when Libya was a fairly stable nation before the Obama administration's CIA regime change operations led by Hillary Clinton. Dateline Washington, D.C. and the Arabian Sea. A U.S. Navy F-35 fighter shot down an Iranian drone that aggressively approached the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea. U.S. Central Command described the intercept as a defensive action amid sharply rising tensions between Washington and Tehran. The Islamo-terrorist regime in Iran must be brought to a swift and sudden end. Will there ever be a better time to do it? Well, that's this observer's opinion. Dateline Washington, D.C. As you may have just possibly heard at some point, the U.S. Justice Department released more than 3 million pages of Jeffrey Epstein-related documents, naming high-profile figures including former President Clinton, Bill Gates, many Hollywood celebrities, leaders of Europe, and others linked to Epstein's network. While offering new details on various associations, the release has produced no immediate new criminal charges. Well, we can wait. Dateline London. Prince Andrew has relocated from Royal Lodge following renewed scrutiny triggered by the latest Jeffrey Epstein document releases. It looks like the rotten royal may have even involved his wife and daughters. This observer hopes this is not true. Dateline Tucson, Arizona. It now seems that the missing 84-year-old mother of NBC Today show host Savannah Guthrie was abducted from her Arizona home. Authorities report signs of forced entry and possible Bitcoin ransom demands. The FBI has joined the search as friends and family express growing concern. Dateline Gaza City. Israeli military strikes across Gaza killed at least 17 Palestinians, according to hospital officials, in one of the deadliest days since the recent ceasefire began. The attacks followed an incident in which an Israeli soldier was wounded by gunfire. This observer does not believe that this will end, even for a time, until Hamas ends, and that means Iran, as we know it, must end. Dateline Washington, D.C. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, age 83, is hospitalized after experiencing flu-like symptoms. The longtime GOP figure is undergoing evaluation and missed some key votes as his office monitors his condition. This observer does not wish the old rhino ill, but will be glad when his final term is ended. Dateline Madrid, Spain. The Spanish government announced plans to ban social media access for children under 16, joining a growing number of European countries taking steps to protect minors amid mounting concerns over mental health and online safety. This observer has mixed opinions about this move. It means potentially more government media control over information available to children, but they undeniably need protection from predators and from psychological social contagion that social media accelerates, like the whole transgender thing, 6'7" and all that. Dateline Beijing, China. Rights groups say Chinese authorities detained 2 journalists after they published a report exposing alleged official corruption. The arrests have renewed international alarm over press freedom and independent reporting inside China. We know there is no such thing in China, and very little of it outside of China either. Dateline Athens, Greece. 15 migrants died after their boat collided with a Greek Coast Guard vessel off the coast. The tragedy underscores the continuing dangers faced by people attempting the perilous Mediterranean crossing. This observer recommends that Europe simply lock down its borders. No deaths on the southern border of America these days, because illegal immigration there has been stopped cold for the last 6 months. It can be done. Dateline, Washington, D.C., Human Rights Watch has issued a stark warning that the United States is headed toward authoritarianism, citing domestic policy shifts and their potential international consequences. Human Rights Watch, a group that supports China and is supported by China, a group that harangues Israel continually with never a word against any of Israel's oppressors, very selective in what they call out and what they choose to ignore. They may have the least moral authority to lecture America on human rights. Dateline, Tokyo. Northern Japan is reeling from deadly, heavy snowfall that has caused fatalities and widespread disruption. Authorities issued warnings for continued extreme winter weather in the region. Dateline, Washington, D.C., the American Society of Plastic Surgeons now publicly opposes gender-affirming surgeries, so-called, for minors, becoming one of the most prominent groups to take a formal stance against such procedures on youth. This after a young lady won a major court case, $2 million, against surgeons who urged her mutilation during her gender dysphoria, usually a temporary mental condition in excitable and malleable young women who spend too much time on social media. Dateline, Washington, D.C. The U.S. House has passed legislation to end the current partial government shutdown, though significant budget cliffs remain, including funding for ICE. Those may be resolved in the coming weeks. Dateline, Jakarta, Indonesia. Nearly 2,000 students across Indonesia have suffered food poisoning linked to the government's free school meals program this year, triggering an official investigation into supply safety. And Dateline, Bentonville, Arkansas. Walmart became the first retailer in history to reach a $1 trillion market valuation, marking a major milestone for the global retail giant. Well, I helped. I'm in Walmart all the time. I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.